morning.
Morning.
How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. First strike, you got it. What's on your brain?
Just a couple of weird things.
Yeah.
One, only because I know you'll hate this.
Yes.
It is National TV Talk Show Host Day today.
Oh, sweet.
It is. And while we're technically not TV talk show hosts, I feel like this is close enough. So it's our day.
Okay.
We should celebrate it.
Tomorrow is National Curb Stomping while listening to techno music and having glow sticks day. Can't wait for that.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm looking forward to that one.
Okay. I have noticed since I've been around you, I have been both improved in many ways.
Yes.
And made weirder.
Yes.
Yes.
That is a consequence. I am sorry, but yes.
I live in this weird world of sci-fi possibilities and the idea of multiverses and Matrix stuff. And so I now I'll like notice weird little things in my day and be like, oh, glitch in the Matrix.
100%.
Like, here's two examples. About a week or so ago, my husband and I were in the car and we look over and we see a police cruiser parked on the side of a street with blue lights on. But the blue lights were not flashing. They were still just on. How often would you say you see a cop car lights that are still? Usually it's, flashing.
Not very often.
These were still. And so we're like, is that car frozen? We're like, there's a glitch in the Matrix and the lights are frozen. Like, oh, somebody better restart this up. And I was like, why do I even think that way? And then this morning, I'm driving and a squirrel runs across. Not a big deal. Squirrels run across the road all the time. Boop, boop, boop. A couple miles later, another squirrel looks exactly like the last one, running in the same fashion as the last one. Right? And I went, glitch in the Matrix. I saw this already. That already happened.
Yeah.
Whoops. Ran it by you again.
Yeah.
What a weirdo.
It's a very valuable era in your development when you start breaking out from conventional norms and consensus, going on your own path and saying F, right? The ideologies and the religions of conformity. I love it. I celebrate that.
I feel like I'm slowly entering insanity.
No. This path is good.
You're like, yes, accept it.
The more people that question status quo, the better. Yes, it has its dangers to be able to go down a rabbit hole and not know what is real and what is not real. But the minute that you realize that what is real was given to you rather than you came up with it on your own, the more you're allowed to question what was given to you. You're allowed to believe anything that you came up with. Everything else, I'm going to erase, hit the delete button. And now you have to come to your own conclusions. When Dr. Fauci comes out and says, do this, you're going to say, F you, Fauci. I didn't come to that conclusion.
None of this is real.
It's not real. It's all matrixy.
We're all in a simulation.
All in a simulation.
Okay. That's all I got.
Yeah. That's what was on your brain.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay. Trust in that. Like I want to make you question consensus. Like that is my overall philosophy in life is I live for the fact that if a bunch of people agree with something, right, your response to a bunch of people getting together and agreeing with something is double middle fingers, F you, right? The group thought does not work for me. I would rather trust somebody who had a really good ayahuasca trip, really had some deep reading of philosophy, and came at me with a hypothesis that's going to present it as a freaking guess, right?
Yeah.
Versus someone who gives you absolute certainty that something is happening, and then you hitch your wagon, right, and predicate your decisions on a bunch of people who you somehow give an authority to that they're smarter than you, and they're freaking not. There you go.
It's funny you said ayahuasca. My husband has a friend that's getting ready to go on a ayahuasca retreat. Yeah. They invited him and he's like, no, not doing that. That's scary.
Yeah.
Have you been on one?
No ayahuasca for me.
Would you do it?
Oh, in a heartbeat.
Really?
Yeah.
Why don't you go? Go do one.
I don't really need it right now. There'll be a time when, I'll have to go up to Portland once they, take all of the very violent protests out of the mix. So I don't have to deal with those idiots up there, then I'll go on an ayahuasca trip.
Yeah, because his buddy's doing it with veterans. It's like a veteran thing
Right.
for people suffering with like PTSD. And I'm like, that sounds risky.
It's just a tool in the tool belt is
Yeah.
really what it is. And it's very helpful in certain situations. And every once in a while, people need that kind of rewiring. And, you know, when the tool's right or when the situation's right, you use the tool that's ready.
All right.
So let me talk about Sobe Thermal, because I'll talk about this a little bit tomorrow with the MLO Bros, because that's a local deal. But I want to take this capitalism versus socialism, communism versus whatever else. And I am so irritated when dumb people do dumb things with dumb consequences and they're oblivious that all the dumbness that happened.
So every day.
Every single day.
Every single day.
So Sobe Thermal, like a company comes into downtown Youngstown and they take over the operations of providing hot water to all of the downtown buildings. They have radiator systems and basically they do their heating via boiling water. It takes a big vat of boiling water to pump down through the city to give everybody their freaking heat. And Sobe was like, hey, you know what? Part of our business model here is to take discarded tires, shred them, and then in a contained vessel, be able to turn them into a fuel, right? Something that's burnable, something that you can release the potential energy out of the components and then boil water, right?
Mhm.
So part of it was like, we're going to boil water, conventional means. And then part of it's like, we want to burn tires. So they got their permitting with the EPA to make sure it was safe and you weren't going to release a lot of pollutants and it wasn't going to create a combustion chamber that was going to blow up a mushroom cloud here in downtown Youngstown.
Oh, God.
Got all the permits, right?
Yeah.
And the city council decided that they were going to put a moratorium on the actual part of their business that was going to pay all of the bills, right? So city council was like, hey, we're really stupid and we don't know what's going on and we just don't like things and we're swayed by politics. We don't want burning tires in our city. And they put a year worth of, you can't do the part of your business model that makes sense, right?
Did they wrap it up in a little bow of bad for the environment?
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely bad for environment. Even though it got EPA permitting, they signed off on it that it was a safe technology to be able to use. We hit the button that said, you can't do that for a year. And then they did it again. Another moratorium, suspended it for another year. November is when the second moratorium is set to expire, and city council gets to decide whether they can do the tire burning in this vessel to create the fuel to be able to do the heat exchanges and energy, manufacturing. And so eventually they ran out of money because the part of their business was going to pay the bills, whatever. So the conventional boiler, right, got repossessed by the company that they were leasing it from. And now the city's like, 28 buildings that need this thing, they're not going to have any hot water. Oh, crap, right?
Oh, crap.
But connective mechanism, you put a moratorium on a company, starve them of cash, and then something you rely on, now you don't have access to. So they start flipping out, right? They asked YSU to be able to provide hot water and pump system down from above the hill. Too many leaks in the system, couldn't do it. So then somebody, unknown entity, leases another one of these boilers to be able to place on the facility. And I don't know if it's operational. We have heat down here. I haven't heard any complaints about it. So maybe they created a boiler that's city owned or somebody owned to be able to create the hot water to buy some time. But my point is the best intentions F's everything up when you have stupid people at the regulation and lever handling. Okay. And I just want to point this out that this is a reason to be able to take everybody who's in a capacity that makes important decisions and dispatch them back into the worlds, right? Where their intellect will serve us better. They do not need to be on a city council that caused this problem, that had a complete blind spot as to what role they were playing in a peril that we've been faced down the road. Nobody thought of this. Hey, if we put this company at a disadvantage, maybe someday that they won't be able to do the thing that we're relying on them, and we're going to be in bad shape, right?
How long is a city council person's term?
That's a good question. 2 or 4 years, I believe.
Okay,
so that's why they
can
regularly
keep putting on a year-long
yes.
moratorium. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. And so, like, as Danyi said, the road to hell is paved with the best of intentions. The same thing is happening in AI, right? There's a funding advocacy group, right, that is trying to, and AI at this point is developing the intelligence to be able to make things more efficient and be able to replace duties and jobs in their entirety by software. Things that people were doing manually gets turned over to an efficient mechanism of software decision making, right? And this group says, hey, we're going in this direction where efficiency is put it as paramount and human beings and humanity is put secondary. So they're looking to reverse the trajectory of what AI is supposed to do, instead of it being a better tool that can be used by humanity to be able to be a more effective civilization. Let's make bad decisions for the sake of human beings. So even if we lose in the long term by making things work better, at least human beings will benefit from it rather than the economy or capitalism or whatever else. And this reminds me, like this is one of my favorite examples. Well, let me not use my favorite example. Let me use the early villager. So you have a group of villagers, and there's one guy that his job is to wake up early in the morning, grab some weaponry, and go out into the forest and kill something, right?
Mm-hmm.
He drags that, field dresses it, drags it back to the village, and now the village has food. So when he kills somebody, there are a bunch of people who didn't wake up early, didn't grab weaponry, didn't go out into the cold, didn't field dress, didn't kill, and didn't bring back. And they all have a lot of opinions of what should be done with the deer. Do you know who owns the deer?
Person who brought it back.
The person who brought it back. So all of their opinions are voided as far as I'm concerned. I don't give a two shits when you wake up early or when you make the weaponry or when you do the field dressing or when you wait in the tree or whatever. Then you have a effing say. We have way too many people that have no skin in the game, that have all these ideas of what should be done, but they're always late to the party after the deer has been delivered rather than when the hunt is being done. Right?
Yeah.
So guess who has say in AI? The people who invested the money, they invested the time, developed it, created it. Now it's like useful. And you have all these people who are like, oh, you got a useful product. Let me add my ideas to it at this point. All those people who developed it and took the risk need to put a double middle finger and say, F you and your ideas. I developed it. I get the spoils of what the result of my hunt. F you.
Yeah, and we see this when we argue over billionaires and what they should do with their money. If it's like, I got up early every single day, I hustled, I sacrificed, I didn't have things when I wanted it so that I could prosper later. I made decisions, I failed, I put my own money in something, I lost, I kept at it, I built something, the consumers obviously loved it, I made a bunch of money. And you don't get to tell me what to do with that money if you stayed in bed all day while I did this.
That's right. The hunter always eats first. And then after he has been filled, then he can decide to then reward the non-effort givers in the village. And if he's a noble hunter, then the transaction begins again. And so like the failings of socialism and communism and Marxism, all of these whole collective ideals, I've been, a disciple in the incentive for being the hunter. You do it because you get the rewards of your hunt first, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no communists when things are hard and you're not being paid. And that's, there's lots of they're not in line to be like, how can I help the effort? Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're only there once the trough is full with the spoils of other people. Then they have tons of reasons and justifications for what to do with the results of better men providing the stuff. And because they're not willing to go out on the hunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You disincentivize the hunt. So what do you, if it's cool, if the hunt has already been done, then socialism actually works. But you have to convince me that anyone would take the hunt on, right, if there was no reward for the hunter.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you made it so that everybody gets the same amount of benefits from what the hunter produced,
mm-hmm.
how long do you think that hunter is going to keep producing?
Right. So a transactional environment, we talked about Snap and EBT, a bunch of people that are freeloaders on systems, wrapped in some kind of charity and incentivizing more struggle rather than get your ass up early, go on the hunt, and let charity be a reward where if you go for a hunt and you don't get anything, the effort is going to be rewarded, not the results of the effort. So if there's 5 hunters that go out and only one of them get a deer, the 5 hunters that at least tried get to first, hit at the table.
Yeah.
So it was merit, but it was also shared risk. Everybody was willing to take the risk. The people who slept in and took it easy and whatever, they are last to be served, and they're eating some entrails, right? They're eating, taking some blood and bread, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I mean, even we talked yesterday about giving and charity and things of that nature. And do you feel better giving to someone that you see is doing everything they can and still struggling, rather than giving to someone that will appreciate it, but that's their sole source of survival? They'd be like, thanks, I'm going to go continue to do nothing.
Right.
I appreciate this. I did need it. But I will take 0 steps in making sure I can get it myself next time.
Yeah. I was reading a guy who was comparing himself and his struggle, where he's working 60 hours a week in New York City, where cost of living is high. And he was comparing that 60-hour a week, risk to somebody who was freeloading. And do you think the guy that was working 60 hours was making more or less in benefits, less in direct pay than the person who was on the system? If I'm bringing it up, you know the answer.
Yeah.
The person that was not doing anything was getting almost $6,000 a month in benefits, direct benefits, and food benefits and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so the person that's working is looking, the person who just watched a long stretch on Netflix that day, making more than they did. What do you think it does to the person that's willing to work and add the effort?
Yeah. I've heard stories before of people that go to a doctor's office, and let's say they get charged cash, certain amount, they pay the certain amount. And then they say, oh, by the way, it's no longer that, we're raising the prices. And they said, why are you raising what I'm paying? And they said, well, we didn't realize you have insurance. You have insurance, so you're going to pay more. And they're like, then I'll go cancel my insurance. Like, what? That doesn't. So I'm paying for insurance, and that raises the cost of an appointment. And somebody who does not have insurance gets a discount.
So, and that brings up something important. Have you been following Mark Cuban?
Not really. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces, and I know that he's been sort of involved in different political matters, but I don't know what.
Politically, I disagree with Mark Cuban, but he has taken on pharmaceuticals. He started a company that has direct distribution of off-market generic drugs and giving people an option to be able to get their pharmaceuticals at way less than what you would get from the pharmacy and a prescription and insurance companies. And he just partnered with a Trump subsidiary that is also working on the same thing. So I have this prediction. One of the biggest problems that we have in healthcare is that it's runaway, right? Because insurance companies were fronting the bill and government was subsidizing that, there was no incentive for healthcare and pharmaceuticals to become less money. It only went and became more money. Obamacare was a freaking disaster because then it shielded what people were paying even more and increased the cost by putting these mandates on pharmaceuticals that made everything cost more. So from a math standpoint, this was broken math from the absolute beginning, and it was intended to break the system so we do universal health care. I'm 100% convinced that their goal was to break healthcare, and which it's doing right now.
Wow.
If you look to see the subsidies that are about to disappear, there are a bunch of people who their costs of healthcare are going to double. So what causes your healthcare to double? The subsidy. It's not as doubling, it's your subsidies disappearing, which means the taxpayer that was paying a portion of it is no longer going to pay for it. So what you're responsible for is double. So all along, it was costing that, right?
Yeah.
You just didn't pay for your healthcare. Other people freaking paid for your healthcare. So I think this grouping where Mark Cuban was able to partner with Trump and be able to set aside his political differences, saw a problem in the marketplace, and let an entrepreneur be able to tackle the mathematics of something in the way that he could. Not every pharmaceutical is available off-label or in the generic deal. So he can only take 70% of what's available. The things that are still that the pharmaceuticals have exclusivity where you can't create a generic brand for it, right? Where they can sell direct. Those are still sky high.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to break the system in the wrong way, you do Obamacare. If you want to break the system in the right way, we're allowed consumers to say, F it. I have a $10,000 deductible. I'm paying $2,000 a month for healthcare. I never meet my deductible, so I'm never actually using the insurance. It's costing me $2,000 a month. I'm going to take all that money that it's costing me already, and I'm just going to try to pay directly, bypass the insurance company, bypass the subsidies, bypass the government, and pay practitioners directly.
As needed.
The practitioners are like, oh, you mean I don't have to have a billing department that fights with insurance companies, and I don't have to worry about losing money on 90% of the drugs and making it back on the 10% that I can bill a margin on.
Yeah.
You take all that complication away and make it between the person that's receiving the service and the person that's selling the service directly. We did it with pharmaceuticals. Now let's do it with the actual healthcare providers. Bypass hospitals. Let's just say I'm like F Medicaid, F Medicare, F insurances. You come to my practice, I have the amount of money that I need to make with my costs and margin added together. It costs you $160. I don't bill insurance companies. It costs you every time you go there. And if at the end of the year, it costs you less money, right, to deal directly with the people rather than go through an insurance company. It's bullshit that it's an insurance company anyway. But anyway, that's
I mean, I've seen it on both sides. I've worked in doctors' offices where absolutely, like, your insurance and how easy that company is to deal with directly affects what care you're going to receive.
Yep.
And whether it's something you need or not, you won't get it because they don't know if they're going to get paid, or maybe you don't necessarily need it, but you're getting it because they're going to get paid. And it's this whole rigmarole. I've also seen, like, I saw a doctor one time and they said, here's your portion to pay. If you pay it now, we'll knock off a few bucks and your price will be less. And I'm like, so you're able then to give me a cheaper rate. Today it's cheaper than if I pay in a couple weeks. Like, so something has some wiggle room there.
For sure.
And it's just like, it feels like a game. It's like all a game. And yeah, I said, I would love to say, I know I need a doctor maybe this many times a year. Can I just pay when I go?
That's right.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Get 90% of the people off of insurance provided healthcare. Let it be direct paid to the practitioners. And
now, would it still be affordable? I guess it would if you're saving throughout the year. Like when you think of high expensive items, large testing, imaging, things of that nature that, like, done at a hospital or whatever, you would think would be the more costly thing.
Catastrophic.
But if you're not paying all year, every year when you don't use it, you would just save up that money and then pay it when you use it
directly. Cut the insurance company completely out of it.
Yeah, like I bet I could pay for a CT or a whatever.
Yeah, even if it's $800, if you take the money that you were paying in insurance and put it in your own account and pay for the stuff that you need, it incentivizes health because the healthier you are, the less your health insurance costs. When we're disconnected from the cost of your behaviors, somebody else pays for your bad deal, then I've got to pay for your bad decisions, and that's not fair to me.
I would love to look into, my husband's best friend works for a company that provides a gym membership to all employees. I wonder what their costs on gym membership for every employee is compared to, like, health insurance costs and things of that nature. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, statistically, if you give gym memberships, it reduces your over liability, so your insurance premiums go down. And as long as the insurance premiums go down larger than what the gym memberships cost, then it's a net gain. Chicken says, I can speak for the private pay method. I did it for 2 years before Champa was approved. Biden admin didn't even have the website working and was way cheaper. Chicken also says, I also bill insurance in my profession and can promise you we are way happier when you say private pay, and our options are way more vast. Yeah, cut them out. They're not your friend. Socialized medicine is a bad idea mathematically and in every other way. Incentivize health by, making so the money that you pay out of pocket. And any time that you have a cost that's hidden from the consumer, there's always a reason why it's hidden from you. Like, what would happen if you're a taxpayer, right? And at the every end of every quarter, you had to write a $5,000 check to the government. Would you require more from the government if it was you who was paying? What if we hidden, right?
Yeah.
We had it taken out of your check. And not only did we have it taken out of your check, we only took half from you and we made your employer pay the other half. Okay.
Yeah.
What if we did that? Then when you open your check, you don't see what the government just took for you because it was a weekly payment or a bi-weekly payment. But if you had to, I'm telling you, if you want to destroy government, make people write their own tax payments in full.
Yeah.
And people will be way more pissed off and they will require more from the services being provided by government.
Yeah.
Do it tomorrow.
Taxes are so complicated. You have to hire someone to do it for you.
Yeah. Think of what disappears when you take the complication of the bad system that is mathematically not sound and make it that when you want something, you go buy it. And if you want something, like if you can't afford something, then you have to ask somebody to pay it on your behalf every time.
Instead of MAGA, we need Make America Make Sense.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. It's a corrupt system.
Jerry says there was a doctor in, I believe, Boardman that started a practice that you pay $80 a month and is a general practice, and you can visit the practice as many times a month.
I have 5 doctors that are customers that swore off insurance, Medicaid, and Medicare, and they went into direct payments from consumers. And they said they lost about 80% of their business. They had 3 floors. They had the basement, which was the billing. They have, I think, like 12 billers that all they did was take medical record or the medical charts and get the billing submitted. 12 payrolls disappeared. All the billing floor is empty. It's maybe down to 1 person.
Wow.
Then you had nurses and doctors on the second floor. And third floor was their marketing and new customer acquisition. And they said when they lost 80% of their customers that were Medicaid, most of those customers, they were billing at equal. So they would render $80 worth of services and it would cost, they would be, so basically what it is that these insurance companies negotiate rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they give certain things that they provide at a loss and they have to make up the difference on things that they can make money on. So you might come in for some kind of test and they can only bill it at $40 and it actually costs them $120 to bill the test out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to get you in there, now they have to upsell you on other tests, blood tests and blood work and machines and everything across the board so they can make up for the loss that would Medicaid, Medicare, and insurance companies would pay. And so when you go in there, it's almost like going to Best Buy, right? You buy a TV and they're not making anything. It's a loss leader, but they have to sell you a surge protector and an insurance plan and blah, blah, blah to be able to make up the loss that got you in the store before. And that's what our medical system is like. You have loss leaders and they got to make up the difference selling you things you don't need. When in the future, when you're wearing your wearables that are sensing where you're at and your wearables tell you when it's time to go see some kind of professional and it connects you with a provider that does the thing. And maybe every general practice goes away and you have all specializations. Your watch tells you, hey, looks like your blood pressure's high. You need some kind of test and you go to XYZ and it costs you $79. They accept the $79. You go in for the test. It takes 5 minutes, right? Because it's all done through AI.
Yeah.
And then maybe you don't only go to the hospital or the doctors once every 3 years or when your body tells the sensors that you need some kind of service.
I am literally running through my mind the number of times lately I have seen a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. Do this. Sounds good. All done. But I still have to hear, well, we're going to see you in a few weeks just to check in.
They have to.
We're going to see you in a couple months.
They
I just got somebody called me yesterday. Hey, we're confirming your appointment. For what? Oh, it's just to check in on blah, blah, blah. No,
your
fine.
AI, your wearables can check in on you on a regular basis.
It'd be like, well, I thought that first appointment was really unnecessary and a waste of time. I sure as hell am not coming back again to waste my time and money.
Yes, you'll spend far fewer days of your life in some kind of medical facility, occupying the time of a doctor just to go through the formalities so they can make a billable event for your arrival. And that's it. That's the scam of medical.
Chicken says Champa is veteran healthcare for dependents. Said Champ. Oh, Champ VA is Champa. Champ VA. Interesting.
D-Nice says every American should watch this. This whole system is a financial fraud rigged against the people, for sure. And if you allow a certain part of the percentage to carve themselves out, right, have no obligation to either be part of that system or supplement somebody else part of the system. When you're in the system, you're supplementing other people. Healthy people are paying for the medical stuff, and it's not charity. You don't feel great when you pay your medical premiums and know that you paid for someone else's doctor visit, right? It doesn't fill your heart that you did something nice. Reserve that. Take 10% of all your medical budget and use it to help some elderly go there. Make it a people thing rather than a system thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, if you carve those people out, and you can then do an experiment to be able to compare what life is like when all of your resources are going into a budget item that you're not getting good value from, versus when you can say, I went to the doctor, I paid $300, and here's what I got for it. It puts medical community on notice that they've actually got to provide results. They can't just say, have an endless, let's try this and let's try this and let's try this and let's try this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the third time that you paid your $300, you get back, hold up, dude. I want you to be more certain before you start trying stuff. Yeah, I want you to guess a little bit more accurately, because you're incentivized to be wrong a whole lot until you get it right. If I can charge you 4 times to try, right? Versus I'm going to go to another doctor. If you're not guessing right and you're not good at your job, I'm going to go to the doctor who guesses right a lot and gets my problem out of the way post haste.
God, literally just in my brain, all these things. Do you think it would affect, if you ever had to go to an emergency room, you will sit there all day.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating, all day.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I had to do that, I remember thinking, can you imagine if we did free healthcare in this country? You'd be sitting there for days.
Well, Canada does. All you have to do is look at what the wait times are in Canada.
Holy cow, I bet it's outrageous.
Yeah. So if you have a procedure, you might have to wait 8 months until the person willing to work for the rate the government is going to pay, because there's far less of them. I don't know if you de-incentivize people making a lot of money doing something, you have far less people that are willing to do that thing, unless they're coerced into doing it. So now it's like, oh yeah, you want to have that thing done? See you in November. And I'm like, November?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I could be dead by then.
Yeah. So yeah, broken system. And every day that the Republicans push on this government shutdown as a middle finger to the Obamacare subsidies in November going bye-bye, and people's health insurance skyrocketing because now they're paying full rate rather than the subsidy rate that the government was hitting, will make them realize that this Obamacare thing was a dumb effing idea. And maybe that might be a catalyst that we have conversations about it, that instead of going in the direction of let's do more of the thing that doesn't work, we do less of the thing that doesn't work and give people the option to, you know, you remember George W. Bush and the health savings accounts? That was brilliant.
Sounds familiar.
Freaking brilliant.
What was that?
So basically what it was is employers could make, rather than paying for a $1,000 a month healthcare deal, where you had $50 co-pays and you didn't pay attention to it. You just whenever you want. Instead, your employer would pay a $200 premium for catastrophic. So if you broke your leg, got cancer, whatever, then you had catastrophic for things that were, $20,000 deductible, and it only covered you for really bad things happening. You know, like when you have a car and you only put what is that called? What is that word? We'll say catastrophic insurance on it. It's not going to cover you for a windshield getting cracked, but if you get into an accident where people die, then it's going to kick in, and it has a higher deductible. Thank you, sir. So same thing on healthcare, but rather than they pay $200, and then all the money that they were paying, $1,000 a month, we put in $800 in an account that you own, right? So every month you're getting $800. If you don't go to the doctor, now it's $1,600. Now it's $2,400, and it keeps growing in value. Right now, when something happens, you use what you've accumulated in your health savings account to purchase either directly out of cash, like you could just pay it directly without going through an insurance company, or pay your deductible on the catastrophic. So let's just say you go a year and you got a $20,000 deductible and something bad happens. Well, you just go to your health savings account. It's accumulated, $800 times 12. You pay your deductible out of what's accumulated in your health savings account and you're whole. You're getting the same services on the bad stuff, but you're directly paying for everything else. And it was sort of like removing the mouth from the tit, right, of the insurance companies and giving consumers what it really feels like to engage with the healthcare system. The healthcare system can then respond. And now, instead of just their check coming from insurance companies, now they've got to serve the public a little well. So let's just say you have a rate. You go to the doctor's office. You pay $200 for an hour appointment, right? If they see you within 15 minutes when you arrive. If it's 45 minutes, now you pay $200. If it's an hour, you pay like $100 or $75. And the longer it takes to serve you, the less money they make off of you. So now you've given them an incentive to see you within 15 minutes. Now they have to respond to the new rules and make it a priority, because if there's no rules, they don't care if you've waited 3 hours to see the doctor.
Yeah.
They make the same amount of money and they can queue up their waiting room. And then if somebody cancels, they don't give a shit. They got 500 people sitting in their waiting room, right? That's where we're at right now, where there's no service in medical. They don't care about the patient. You're just a store of value that they're going to shake down.
I have wondered what changed recently. I have noticed, like, I gotta give a shout out. Mercy Health in North Lima. I'm not kidding. I go in, I sign in, I sit down, and within minutes, I'm in a room. I don't think I've ever waited longer than 15 minutes. That place, no joke, I am in and out, no problem. What changed? Why can one facility do it that way and one can't? Is it the amount of providers maybe? Is it, I don't know.
Smaller markets where they can cater to people because the volume isn't the same. You go to North Lima where maybe they see 100 patients versus downtown Youngstown where they see 1,000.
Could be.
They could pay attention a little bit more because they have extra resources.
Yeah.
Important. Janet brings up, I would never be able to afford my chemo drugs when I had cancer. And this is where the catastrophic. So if you take let's just take a billing sheet for 1 month that comes out of a doctor's office or a hospital, right? You're going to be able to segment out, and you're going to say 90% of everything that was serviced could have been done cheaper by not utilizing emergency rooms. You can take the 10% of ones that need entirely different math, right? You get in a bad car accident, it's treated different than if you get a cracked windshield. You have the ones that are occupying most of our services and make them direct pay. And then even if you convince me, if you said, hey, we're going to do it this way, we're going to take all things like cancer treatments and high-end stuff, and we're going to socialize all of that. Everything else that's not something that's dire, where there's not loss of life is in the mix, that's all going to be direct pay. Now we can refactor our costs and figure out why we have so many cancer patients and why we have so many people that need to be treated with triage and are on the upper end, and combat the problem of high cost. But when you factor in things that should never make its way to a hospital or to a doctor's office, should be done at home with other means, our costs are shifted costs. The burden is on taxpayers that are not making bad decisions to people that are making bad decisions, and there's no hell to pay.
Yeah, I've seen lately, it was funny. It was hanging in my doctor's office. It was like, what constitutes urgent care, primary care, emergency room?
Look at the log. See who's showing up that shouldn't be showing up.
Yeah, like, this is not an emergency room thing. You should not be here.
Right.
This is not a this thing. You shouldn't be here. But don't people go to the emergency room because they have to see you? Like if you don't have insurance or something?
Yeah.
So that is their...
Yeah, it's being
primary.
Compromised.
Yeah.
And you're overburdening what would be an emergency room only because people are working a system to be able to get care. Like, how many times have you actually been to the emergency room and said, yes, I deserve to be there?
Maybe twice.
Twice in your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably the average. I can bet that, I had to go one time that doctor's offices were closed and I had an infection and I had to be responded to because I didn't have any other means, and I was in extreme freaking pain.
Yeah.
And so, but that's only twice in my lifetime. How many people do you think go to the emergency room regularly because it's part of their healthcare protocol?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah. And when you're there, knowing you should be there, and you sit and you watch all these people you know don't need to be here. Oh, that's infuriating.
Yeah. But to be able to like categorize and triage the different types of people that are coming to see you. So for instance, do you think someone who overdosed and they go to the hospital, right? They made a big mistake, right? Should insurance companies, should they, number one, they should be kept alive, no doubt, right? They should not be allowed to die. But shouldn't they like have this huge, you owe me in the
and
bill?
You're talking about like a drug addict overdose, not somebody who accidentally took prescription medication.
Right. Somebody drug overdose, they made a bad mistake, they're probably going to go to jail because they did. But should they ever be able to put that on insurance that the rest of us are going to have to carry? Never. They should have $50,000 that they're going to have to pay back and look at that balance for the rest of their life saying, man, that was a bad mistake.
Yeah.
So we keep them alive, but we don't take their burden and spread it out on everyone else.
I was in an emergency room, not for me, but with someone else. And so I'm sitting in the waiting room and a person came in who was mentally ill, like said, I need my teeth looked at because I want to get a grill. And everybody knows this is obviously not an emergency room visit. This was somebody off the street who was mentally ill, and they still have to see and treat this person. And guess who's paying for that?
Us.
This complete and total waste of time that everybody knows is a waste of time.
Yeah.
And that person sat there a long time. It's not like they pulled him back right away. In fact, I was there hours, and when I left, he was still there. So on one hand, I'm like, well, thanks for not bringing him straight back. But that's all I could think is like, who's paying for his visit to the ER because he doesn't know what he's doing?
Yeah. And you know, it's going to be, because we're so far gone on this path that when somebody fixes it, you're going to have a bunch of freeloaders that are not going to know what to do because they got used to just being given something and never coupled with the value of their scraping off of the rest of us. And so what do you do with those people who are just they're a leech on the system, and now we got to find a proper way to teach them how to not be a leech anymore? That's going to be an undertaking.
Yeah. Jan says, is that what the Republicans are trying to do? I have heard no word of that from them.
No, this is just Joe's guess, because I would be ecstatic if we conquered this, but I don't necessarily think any of today's Republicans have the will to fix it in the way. They're going to slowly take chunks out of it that points in that direction. And it's just going to be a matter of time before an administration puts us right back on the Biden, Obama, break the system so that we get on socialized medicine deal. I argue against socialized medicine only because mathematically it only works for a short time before you are in bad shape, because I can talk to people who are going through medical school right now and find out, I'm just doing this to help people because I'm a giving philanthropist versus the ones that are like, hey, this job pays a lot of money, so it's worth taking the, $800,000 worth of schooling to be able to get into $800,000 a year for the rest of my life. Right.
Yeah.
So what happens when you socialize it? You make it so that, it pays $60,000 a year because people are forced into the obligation of being paid a federal wage rather than a entrepreneur wage. How many people are going to take the risk, go through the long schooling, and then what do you end up with? You get the public defenders in hospitals. People don't really want to be doing this. They're not being paid a whole lot. They'll give you the bare minimum to get you by, and then all the rest of us that wanted premium service get the value version off of the menu. And we're going to be like, this costs a whole lot, right? Now I don't have the choice of going premium unless you separate it. Let a system exist where you think the bad math is really good, so go take it to its end conclusion and give a premium service where you get direct people pay, and compare the two after a decade. Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been to a medical facility where you could tell the person treating you or caring for you does not want to be there?
Yes.
They don't
DMV,
care.
right there. DMV. Think of healthcare in the DMV where there is no empathy. I don't even really want to be here. take your effing number, have a seat.
Don't care.
And I'm not being paid to be helpful.
You know what some of those places feel like? Remember Seinfeld, the soup Nazi?
Yes.
Where you're like, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
And then you're like, wait a minute. You're providing a service that you want paid for. Why am I scared of you?
Yes.
You only have a job because of me.
Yep.
So how about this situation? Break it down as to what you think should have happened. I can remember years ago, it must have been during the time of Obamacare. I had a cousin who was diagnosed with brain cancer, severe form, needed instant treatment, had just gotten a new job and had no insurance coverage. So at the time, I remember thinking, oh, this Obamacare is requiring people to be covered. And so now he's got insurance and he wouldn't have if he didn't. How should have that gone down in a better way? Maybe?
Well, in society, we protect the vulnerable. It's just part of the deal. And your goal is to try not to be vulnerable. So everybody be eager to be able to help you out of your situation. So somebody in your neighborhood, they lose their job and they can't buy their groceries, right? So what happens? The people who know that person and who love that person, they provide for that person so long that everybody's like, oh, all I have to do is be in peril and whatever. In your neighborhood, if out of 10 people, there were 8 people that were in peril, and so it came down on 2 people to pay the groceries for everybody else, then you'd be suspicious of like, why aren't you trying to pay your own groceries? And then that whole, the faith in the theme would go away because people are just taking advantage of the generosities. So if you lose your job and you don't have groceries, there's a million people that are willing to step in and help you out through that time. And you're not supposed to be in that time any longer than is necessary. So for instance, like, let's just say socialized medicine only covered things like cancer, right? Mm-hmm. And the government came and said, okay, everybody chip in $5. And all 300 million of us that are paying $5 are going to just take care of the people that are going through cancer. It's not their fault. It's going to ruin them. They're never going to be able to come back from this. I would say, where do I send the check? Most of us would, right?
Yeah.
But if we're already paying like $20,000 a year for our healthcare, and then you want to cover cancer patients, I'm going to say the 90% of my 20,000 is going to people that don't have to be in the predicament they're in. Why don't you use my 20,000 I'm already spending and take care of those people first?
Yeah.
And you never have to worry about it. It's all of the people that are in the system that are, I want to see somebody about my teeth so I can get a grill people. Once you remove them from the system, let's take a snapshot of where we're at financially when you rip all those people that are not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And that's why like segmenting out and giving the direct pays gives us the ability to collect data on both groups. And why is that one better? And are the people happy that are paying directly? And are the doctors happier with direct pay? Right. Mm-hmm. And then say, what can we learn by doing it a different way? Make it not an orthodoxy where if you challenge it, somehow you're breaking the system, because Obamacare that required everybody pay into it because they need a lot of suckers out there, right? To pay into the system to be able to cover everybody and put no requirements on, personal responsibility.
So you see companies like hospitals like St. Jude, are they strictly donor funded?
It's a good question. I think the last time we looked into that, they did a lot of subsidy and they had a lot of fundraising that they did privately.
Yeah. Like I know being in radio, there's been like St. Jude-a-thons and there's a lot of fundraising, and I've given to St. Jude because I do like the idea of no family has to pay while they're going through this. So could it be possible to have that in more situations?
Yeah. The more people that started and are given the ability to break out and create that experimental model, the more we can learn from it to see if it's good or bad, as long as they're not assailed. Right.
Yeah.
So for instance, like, homeschooling or private schools. It's cool to be able to take public education and compare it with private education, as long as the private side isn't given a disadvantage. So when it's looked at, that it fails versus public schooling. So when we were opening, we were contemplating opening a private school, and we looked at the the per pupil distribution of public money. So if the state or the federal government taxes people to fund education, and that goes down to the schooling. If you sent your kid to a public school and that school was collecting $10,000 per pupil, right? And if you had a private education, how much do you think the school that is hosting, not going to the public school, right? How much is going to the private school? Would you guess 10,000? You would be very wrong.
Yeah.
So the public school still gets the per pupil, a portion of it, when they're not serving any of the needs of that because that person is at a private school. So the private schools in a disadvantage were receiving far fewer dollars from those institutions and that tax collection. So for instance, it's an educator that's making $100,000 in the public side, right? You might have an educator that they can only afford $40,000 in the private side. The ratios of kids, a public education teacher can maybe have 20 kids in their classroom. The disadvantage is put in the private where the ratio of teacher to students might be 12. So now the private schools are put at a mathematical disadvantage because they can pay their teachers. They can only pay their teacher less because the tuitions that they're collecting on those students are far less and the ratio is higher. So now they have less pupils per room. They have to hire more teachers to satisfy the same amount of pupils that are coming through. And that's an example of how you rig the numbers so that the public entity has an advantage and the private entity has an extreme disadvantage.
Yeah. I got distracted. I just saw your mug.
Yeah.
That's funny. Jerry says welfare to work fair. Welfare to work fair can help that by getting people employed and getting benefits they pay for and getting individuals that do not need to be on the government dime.
Yeah.
Welfare to work.
Here's what I prescribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is insurance?
What is insurance?
What is insurance?
Insurance is something that you keep as a backup plan for when you need something. I'm trying to be as general as possible.
All right, well, I'll give you some examples. So when we host events and we take rain insurance, that means that we're assuming that it is not going to rain, right? And if it doesn't rain, I'm going to make X amount of dollars. If it does rain, which I do not want it to rain, and if it happens, then I'm not going to make my X amount of dollars. So I'm going to give somebody a premium. They're going to cover me on X amount of protections in case it rains, right?
Yeah.
I do not want it to rain, right? And they don't want it to rain, but it's a little transaction that insulates me and insures me against a hypothetical that I do not want to happen, right? Yeah. I'm willing to pay, like when we do an event, I pay $500 for a deal. I have $10,000 worth of liability, and there's a 2% chance that it's going to rain that day, right?
Yeah.
And so on the aggregate, when they insure 10,000 people, they pay out 2% of the time, and I collected $500 from each of those people, and 2% of those 10,000 end up needing it. I use the money that I collected in the premium to then pay for the obligations on the people that received it, right? That's insurance. So the payout should be very low. You know, when radio stations do contests, they have contest insurance. So if I give away a car, right, they don't want anybody to win. But if someone happens to win, they pay $1,000 to give away a car, and they make the chances of it winning to be a certain percentage. And that way, if somebody happens to win, the insurance company pays for the prize, and they have to follow guidelines to make sure that the likelihood that somebody wins does not go beyond what the percentage is of the premium that I paid, right?
Yeah.
So that is sort of two real world examples of what insurance is. So is healthcare insurance? What are you insuring against?
That you get really, really, really sick or injured.
No, that's what I said.
That's what it should be.
If hospitals and doctors pay 100% of the time, what are you insuring against? If we did catastrophic, then you could take the population that gets cancer, right? And knowing that the average cost of a cancer patient and all of their treatment is X, and you divide that out by the number of people that get it, or multiply that out by the number of people that get it, and then you take the 98% of people that don't get cancer and you divide the premium on all people, knowing that 100% of are going to pay the premium, but only 2% are going to need it. And then the liabilities are covered by the people who don't want to get it. You don't want to get it, but the premium goes up. If it's the deal where there's 100% chance, right, that the thing is going to happen, it is no longer insurance, right?
Yeah.
If I bought insurance the day before my event, when the weather set, so you're the insurance provider, and I'm like, hey, I'm holding an event tomorrow. Okay, cool. I got $10,000 worth of exposure on my event. Okay. What's the weather say? There's a 100% chance it's going to rain. So what's my premium give me? If you know that it's a 100% chance that you're going to be paying me $10,000, what should my premium be?
10,000.
Well, that's the break even. I'm in the business of making a little bit of money. Maybe I make 10%. So now it's my premium is $11,000 to cover $10,000 worth of liability.
Yeah.
Would I pay that? No. I might as well just cover it myself if that's going to be it. And are you going to willingly say that I'm going to cover your loss if you know there was a 100% chance that the thing was going to happen? No. There's a 100% chance you're going to pay out.
Well, let's look at life insurance.
Yes.
There's a 100% chance you're going to die.
Yes. 100% chance.
What would you do instead of getting life insurance? Or would you? Or would it be different? Like,
well,
how do we
life
apply
insurance
this
actually works out pretty well because it doesn't cost a whole lot when you're very unlikely to die. So you're covering yourself for the unlikely event that you die.
But the closer you get to natural death, the more you're going to pay.
So let's just say you pay $100 a month for your life, for the rest of your life. So if you got 12 months in a year and you live to be 100, you've taken $1,200 worth of payments at $100. So you have paid, what is that? 120,000.
The wrong person to do math.
Anyway, you paid a bunch of money in there. So you're covering your end of life should be a percentage less than what you've paid into it. So if you get $1 million worth of coverage when you're 20 years old, I'd take that bet. Likelihood that you're going to pay your $100 and you're not going to ever claim that. And a few people that die in their 20s are going to be nothing compared to the premium payers that are whatever. But if you get to be 99 years old and it's like, I want to cover $1 million worth of life insurance, so if I die, I'm covered. What should the premiums cost for a person that is 99 years old and you might have 12 payments before you were super likely to die? You should be $1 million in premiums to cover you for a $1 million policy because it is going to happen, not unlikely to happen. So I say get insurance as a term out of the equation. Social Security is not an insurance program. You are 100% likely to be able to collect it. It has to be an investment, which investments have rules and regulations that make sure that you have to do a fiduciary. You have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure the person that's investing with you gets a good return on their investment. Do you think Social Security has a good return on investment?
No.
Zero. A negative return in compared with all other, methods of investment. Ponzi scheme. So again, we're outlining where you have this group thing. We put a bunch of money on the table. And if we make it so that it's not mathematically sound, it will always require more people to pay into the pile of money as we rob it by bad math. And there's a point where the math gets so bad and there are not enough people paying into it that system breaks, and it breaks like every other Ponzi scheme. That's what medical is. Sometimes that's where housing goes, and definitely where Social Security is.
So do you think a start to sort of breaking it is these ideas of these other doctors' offices branching out and only doing cash?
Yeah. If you were offered tomorrow to opt out of Social Security, take the same amount of money that was being deducted from your paycheck and put it in a private investment, would you do it?
Probably.
So what's stopping you from doing it right now?
Not allowed to do it?
You're not allowed to do it. You are mandated that you pay into the Ponzi scam.
No fair.
It's not fair. But anything, I will tell you, when you look at scams, like we look at the profile of what a scam is. This is one of the first check boxes on if it's a scam, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there is a mandated, you don't have the option to say no, right? You don't, if you can say no, if you can opt out of something, then I have to give you the bet. Like, let's just say tomorrow we let everybody opt out of Social Security. So you turn 19, you get your first job, and if someone from Social Security office comes to your office and say, here's what I want to do. I want to convince you to do Social Security. Then the 19-year-old is going to be like, okay, I want you to show me the ledger on it. If I did this for certain, I'm going to take what I've already planned, that I'm going to invest X amount of dollars in the stock market over the period of the next 50 years. And I'm got a good idea of where I'll be at as far as how much I've invested and how much my returns should be by the time I turn 65. Show me yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put them side by side and see which one's better. And if you're like, here's the deal, it's not better, and we're going to steal a bunch of your money and put it into government projects, it's probably not going to be solvent, and so I'm going to raise your taxes along the way, right? But the only way that I convince you to do this is I'm going to put you in jail if you don't. That is the profile of a scam, and that's what Social Security is. Feel good?
Talk about no kings, no monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem right there.
Yep.
This is bullcrap.
Yeah. 19 years old, you get to opt in or out of all of these things, and they get to market to you and tell you how good of a deal it is. And if you don't agree with them, F them, do it yourself.
16.
16? You think your brain's formed enough by the time you're
16? No, but I've been working since
decision?
I was 16.
Right. If you were able to tomorrow be able to take everything that you've paid dollar for dollar into Social Security and then change gears now and do your own investing from this point for the rest of your life, would you do that?
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is an insurance company. It is an insurance company from this perspective. There's one thing where Social Security is like an insurance company. They really hope you die before you start collecting it.
Yeah.
They're hedging that you're not going to live deep into your collection term. That's it.
I might be confusing this with something else. If you die, can a spouse get your Social Security?
Yeah, you have survivor benefits that are within Social Security. Yeah.
But if you don't have a spouse, that just goes
away.
Doesn't
go to your kids, or they don't like give you a check to your estate or anything like that.
It's not like you can put in your will, I want this to go to this organization.
$300,000 over my lifetime in Social Security, and it just goes poof, gone. That's a good deal, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that's kind of like with life insurance. If your policy's until, I don't know, 65, 70, whatever, and you get to 70 and you're still alive, doesn't that just it's all gone?
Except for whole life, which that another really bad instrument, very bad mathematical instrument, where you pay into an investment account as a portion and you can cash it out at the end. And really, consumers really don't have a good grasp on what is a good value. So here's a good value. You have $1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the goal with investment is to make that dollar turn into more than $1. Parity would be if you have $1 and you put in a coffee can and bury it in your backyard and you dig it up in 10 years and you pull it out and there's $1. So you have $1. That's parity. Every investment vehicle should be more than $1. Even if it's a fraction of a percentage, it has to be worth more than $1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the person that pays $300,000 into Social Security and only ends up collecting $47,000 because they happened to die when they were 67, that is less than $300,000. So the government has this great talent for ripping value out of the consumer, either through inflation or exorbitant costs or limited benefits or whatever. Where capitalism and things that make value grow over time means that things that you do become more valuable as time goes on, not less valuable as time goes on.
So the stupid people are all sort of looking at this immediate gratification. Look what I got. And it doesn't matter how you got it.
No.
Or what's going to be screwed up down the road.
So when you buy a house and your house is worth $100,000 and you look to see what it cost you and insurances and own that house, and you look at it as like your best investment that you've ever had, it's worth $150,000. And then you take the ledger of everything you've paid in to have that house, and you've paid $300,000 for a house that's worth $150,000, is that an investment? Well, by my definition, if you had $1 and it's worth more than $1 in 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Then that's an investment. If it is worth less than a dollar, it is not an investment. It is a liability.
Yeah, I feel good. Every so often, our mortgage company sends us emails of what our house is worth now. And it's always more than we spent. And I'm like, woohoo!
Bet you it's not.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. But it's still better than insurances where it goes to zero. At least you have some of it.
Yeah. So I've been told veterans can collect Social Security early. Would you advise we do that?
Absolutely. If tomorrow they sent you a letter, hey, you can get 50% of your benefits if you do it at 40, I would say start collecting that shit right now. And I am not a trained investment person, but I also know that the Ponzi scheme is one day going to fall, and I don't want it to fall when you are waiting on it. Like when you're 64, you're like, I'm about to collect Social Security, and the government's like, oh, we're raising the age to 97 now, right? Because we can't afford.
So maybe we should talk to our financial investment people and be like, hey, should we go ahead and pull this now? And
well, we started talking with medical, and the more people that take a different path, the better. Breaks the system for the people who need the Ponzi to survive, but it also gives options to people. Same thing with Social Security. If the government gives you a benefit to do a, health savings account or whatever, then, do that to break the system.
And what you said is the people that need it to survive. Like there are legitimate people that, for whatever reason, legitimately cannot work, cannot pay into anything. They need some sort of benefit, some sort of something. So what do you do in those cases?
Same thing with abortion, right? And it's sort of like the anomaly or the small majority or small minority of them justify the bad decision. Okay, so if you said rape and incest constitutes 4% of all abortions, let's not keep abortions open to everyone when 94% could be eliminated by controls and different decisions that are being made. Mm-hmm. And then we create the exception for the ones that we're concerned about. Mm-hmm. You've got cancer. You're not the grill guy at the hospital. That's the one I'm concerned about. The cancer one, I am super willing to put up with. And once we remove the deadbeats on the system, there's probably plenty of money to take care of the people who didn't ask for it, didn't decide it, are not responsible for it. The major costs are not those people or to the other ones.
But then you have a fight over what constitutes a deadbeat and how do you prove that?
Exactly right.
How can they manipulate to make it look like they're not?
Exactly.
And it's just so.
So what does it make you want to do if you set your table full of $100 bills out there and you want to do good by giving people who really need $100 bills? You find yourself that everybody's coming up to your table. They're pulling up in Cadillacs on their cell phone, and they really didn't need the $100. So you, as the provider of the charity for $100, you don't feel great about it because you're just being taken by a bunch of people. Maybe one person comes up there and need it. You put up with the other 10 that absolutely didn't need it. So what do you do with your table?
You guard it.
Okay. You're more deliberate about who gets to take it. It's not just open, and it's not like an honor system because the people that are coming there have not been honorable.
Yeah.
You put stipulations. Maybe it's not a table. Maybe you go find those people.
I was just going to say, I would go to where I knew there were people that needed this.
So if we know that if you take a trough, right, all pigs are going to show up, not just the hungry ones. So if you want to take one that absolutely needs to be fed, you do it different than just slopping the trough.
Yeah. Yeah, go find them. I like that idea. Chicken says, yes, we can. As veterans, you are afforded many options that you should investigate.
Should. You absolutely should. Every teacher that's in some kind of pension, every laborer that's in a pension, every Social Security person, if you're ever given the option to take your money out of a bad mathematical system that requires more people paying into it to keep it sustainable, get out while you can. And that is not a professional giving you that advice. That's just a common sense dude who hates Ponzi schemes.
I'm going to look into this.
Please do.
Oh, I'm
Please
going
do.
to. I'm going to.
Don't hold me accountable if it goes south.
No, I'm gonna consult a professional in the field first. For sure.
Welfare to Work
Oh, that was Jerry's thing we read.
Oh, you read that one? Okay.
Yeah.
BJ hates us though. He says he gives us one requirement: never talk about health. And we have dedicated. This
isn't really talking about health.
I want to ask him whether or not he feels what we said today was in the gray area that constitutes us being chastised.
And this is just another level of how broken this system is you can't even discuss things to make people healthier on the internet because it's blocked, it's hidden, the algorithms go nowhere. So again, that's just one more leg of screwing people over. No. Don't educate people on the right thing to do and what can make sense and what can keep them healthy and what can save them money. Just keep doing what we're doing now and don't look at any other options. Forced to pay into
Social Security or you go to jail. Talk about a topic that's unpopular so you get throttled. I see a theme here of the freedoms that I believe in, right, aren't, and this isn't like we're going to be put in jail if we talk health. There's a much more subtle way of silencing someone if you make the algorithms woke. And let's talk about woke algorithms.
Wokeness.
Woke algorithms. So this group that is funded by Ballmer and Gates, they are taking a position on a humanity-centered AI, right? And so instead of the making things efficient and serving capitalism and making life easier and solving problems easier, rather being a tool that all people can experience in the same way, what if someone uses it and they prosper more than other people? What if they're smarter, they use it better, and then John Smith does really well using it, and Bill Smith, he can't figure it out, so he doesn't prosper at all. So human-centric means that we're going to give a priority to the artificial intelligence to serve humanity, just like in, what was that? Twilight Zone. Serve humanity, remember that one?
Serve humanity.
Yeah. You remember that episode?
Is that like a cookbook thing?
Yes! Okay. Yes, to serve humanity wasn't
to serve like man.
Yes.
To serve man.
That's it.
It's a cookbook. Yeah.
So anyway, so they want a woke version of it that puts things and sort of like throttles it and hits the levers. And instead of it pursuing the merit of the math, it takes like equity and global warming and all of those fun liberal topics and wants to create a on-purpose bias, right, in the AI so it will serve those advocacies more than prosperity and capitalism and merit and winning and crushing your enemies and whatever. So how do you feel about, on purpose, people are saying it out loud, that they want woke AI to take priority? Because when they call it human-centric, it feels like, oh yeah, I want humans to be centered.
Yeah.
But when I frame it in a certain way and say, oh no, it's not human-centered, it's only some human-centered, and it's the woke ideology of human-centeredness.
That's ridiculous. And a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
And dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And stupid.
Okay. Those are exactly the adjectives I would have used as well.
I know someone that keeps trying to push this. I don't know if it's a company he's trying to build or what, but it's like non-biased AI and non-racist AI. And the person doing this is the most woke. The most. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, what is it he's doing with this? Because I know it's not neutral. I know it's not biased. I know it's not like, it doesn't make sense. How do you have, we Googled one time, my husband and I Googled something. I can't remember what it was. I think it was about the government shutdown. And we could tell what came up on Google that was biased. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God.
But here's another example of where good intentions equal compromise. And it always happens this way. So our founders were genius knowing that there was not anything that was going to stay static. Everything, when you have a thing, it's going to be compromised. So the mechanisms are the balancing of the compromised. Okay. So for instance, if, what was your example just now?
Google Googling the government shutdown and you could tell the answer was biased?
Yeah. So if let's just say you have something like peer review or consensus is easier. Consensus used to be valuable. If you can get a bunch of smart people to say something and they all can agree, they've all looked at it with some assumptions built into what consensus is. Right.
Mhm.
And so when you boil it in, if you got a 10 doctors and say, hey, I want you guys to get together at Perkins every Friday night, and I want you to figure out what's good for people. Right. So what would you have to trust into that doctor group in order for them to give you advice that would be valuable to you?
What would I have to trust?
Yeah. So if they started making recommendations to you and you assume that they're all doctors, so they're just kind of looking out for your well-being and knowing what health is and having a good bead on a standard that they share with you. Right.
Yeah. I'd want to know they're not benefiting in some way.
So, okay. That conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So what if one of those doctors bought into a chicken farm and all of a sudden his advice would be that everybody should eat more chicken, right?
Yeah.
And all the other people in the group were also compromised in the same route because they get benefit from saying the right thing because they get financial incentive or their ego gets stroked or they get placements and directorships or whatever. So now your group of doctors that in theory are going to make really good advice because you're not a doctor and they are.
Yeah.
The group is going to say, well, consensus is very valuable. In a perfect world, consensus is valuable. But what happens when consensus gets compromised? What is a mechanism that shakes the compromise out of consensus? Do you know what keeps doctors on the straight and narrow? What could you add to your Perkins doctor group to make sure that none of them had conflict of interest that were skewing their advice to you based on any of those three attributes that I named?
You can't benefit or make money off of pushing something, off of showing favoritism, off of whatever that is.
Well, it's the same answer to your little table, right? When you fill the trough, right?
Yeah.
Be deliberate in who you choose for consensus. So if your check boxes are conflict of interest and like, okay, I want to make sure this guy's not connected to any of the advice that they're giving. So if I was an investor in the stock market in a company, could that be a conflict of interest? If I sat on the board of directors on one of my vendors that I'm going to be advising, could that be a conflict of interest? Okay, so there's a lot of disqualifying things, and that leaves a group of people who are qualified based on your checkboxes. You go out and find those people who are in that strata, and those become your valuable consensus, and the conflict of interest consensus don't matter anymore. Nobody listens to them because they're captured by their bias. But we have, and really, these are like the reason we don't do this stuff right now. Tons of moving parts, tons of different people, tons of data points. You know what does data points really well and does this factoring and formulations? AI. So if we can keep AI pure, where it's just seeking data, and we give it, so if you were like, give me the best 100 doctors in the area that have no connection to pharmaceuticals and have no biases in these departments, do you want pure AI to just give the results it asked for? Or do you want filtered AI that somebody already kind of like took filters to and added extra biases? Are you going to get pure results if they do that? No. So we want pure AI that just knows how to collect data. You'll use different AI to analyze the data by separating the collection and the analysis on two different AIs. Because it'd be far harder to compromise the data collection one and the whatever. But that's why sophisticated mechanisms of keeping things pure have to build in the captures and the strategies of people who are looking to pollute those things into the mix so that you can get a good result.
It would be interesting if you could affect things like algorithms that, like, anyone who's on Facebook or Instagram knows if you watch certain content, you're served like videos, similar videos. If you watch a lot of Republican leaning content, you get served that. Democrat, you get served that. And that goes with anything. Wouldn't it be interesting if it did not matter what you typically watched? you're still getting served something else. You know what I mean? Like, even if you are leaning to one side of something or you liked one side of something, you're still seeing content from the other.
That's the consumer version. The stuff that I am working with are all self-prompting, self-input algorithms. And so like if the general consumer is never going to put enough good inputs in, they're just going to be served what's commercially consensus-based, right? Mm-hmm. But if let's just say we're given a pure algorithm and it was dumb as a doorknob, right? And it would only become smarter as you taught it on what you want to be served. So if I'm like, I want to look through data and I want you to exclude all consensus data. Like you can go and use ChatGPT or any of the other chatbots, and you can give it prompts that exclude the portions of it that are outside of what is commercially available. So I've tried this a couple times where if you go up to and say, well, I argue with chatbots about global warming all the time because I know I'm right and I know it's wrong and I know it will argue with me every single time. But all I have to do to get pure data at this point is to say, excluding consensus data, what is this result? And if I don't say exclude consensus data, I get the consensus popular portion of that data. In the future, when too many people are out saying exclude the consensus, they'll corrupt that prompt and make it so that they shift the consensus data into that prompt and I have to pick a new word to be able to exclude the things I don't want to hear from. So, but you have to almost outmaneuver the systems of algorithms in order to get the results that you want when you want pure data.
It sounds very complicated.
It is. And it's a game being played against you because do you think the consensus wants you to exclude them?
No,
they don't want to be excluded. Then who's left? If all of science is trying to put consensus, the people that all agree with one another in the same camp, and you excluded all of them, then all the smart people, all the people that actually have good credibility were pressured into joining the consensus or else they can't practice what they are. And when I ask for consensus, I'm actually getting worse results because I'm excluding even the good people who just couldn't stand up to the pressures of joining the consensus, right? So it's going to take some emboldened people to break away, not care about consensus, take all the repercussions so that I can hear their voices. And the more that I do it, it more emboldens the people who aren't afraid to break from the consensus.
I mean, I can understand the idea of starting to more heavily use AI and the benefits of AI, but it does also still feel very risky. Like, could be a great benefit if done right, but so easily done wrong. Because it's still something, like you said, we are teaching, we are inputting information. We can make it biased very easily. So then how do you fight that? Like, how do you make sure that if we're going to adopt AI in all new ways into our society, that it isn't just another bullshit thing we got to deal with that's wrong and harmful? And like, is it worth the risks?
Let me tell you, this was a conversation for 5 years ago. All the smart people who are engaged in it said that once you create a dependency with AI, you're going to have AIs that figure out the AIs. And when you start getting these different layers of analysis on different AIs, there's a trust authority. And who's the trust authority? There is none. So this is the demise, and everybody warned us against it, and we did it anyway. So it's almost like a naturally occurring phenomenon that we will give in to the AI.
It's going to be the new media.
Yes.
Media is captured. There was a time where you thought media was a source of credible information, and that's how we all got information. And now it's very clear that some media is one way and some is another, and there is clear bias. That's going to be this.
So the Matrix scene where, I forget his name, but he was the informant, he was the Brutus, he was the saboteur, and he ate the steak, and he said he's eating the steak, and he was like, in my mind, I know this steak is not real, right? And either I can reject the not real, or I could just enjoy the steak. And I totally chopped that line up. But the premise is, would you like ignorance if ignorance was pretty? Or do you want real if real sucks ass, right?
Yeah.
You're going to take the steak every time. And that is the temptation into this world. But we've already made that decision. Contemplating it now after it is unleashed, right? It's just now a factor of magnitudes rather than premise. Premise is already established. We're there.
So there's nothing we can do.
Nothing we
are
do.
Screwed.
It has been done.
You better just get used to learning how to spot bias, even in AI.
Or have a AI that you trust that's good at spotting bias. Or the bias spotting bias has to have an overlook of a auditing bias.
Oh God,
it gets kind of complicated.
We're so screwed. Chicken says all licensed professionals have an ethics board and NPI numbers that report to those boards. Technically, our boards are designed to keep us ethical, but it requires the public to report.
What did Jerry say up there? Read that one.
Jerry says, if you run out of topics, I sent you a news story. The Ohio Senate has passed controversial legislation that would require all public school students in grades 6 through 12 to be taught a 3-part success sequence, emphasizing marriage before childbirth. Popped up on 27 News, has passed Ohio House, awaiting Senate confirmation.
Love it. Love it.
I feel like I did see a headline about something being taught in schools, and I didn't get a chance to read what it was, but
okay, there's a simple premise. Okay, if you evaluate success and you look at the things that contributed to the success, so if you wait to have kids after so long, if you get a job, and if you graduate from high school, and you look at the spreadsheets and it says you've got a 90% chance of being in a successful position where you can do things if you hit that. This is math, right?
Yeah.
Statistics. So if you took 100 students and you applied this teaching and those people chose that, you have a 90% success. So if you knew something and you didn't tell people about it, would that not be something that you were depriving intelligence in a school?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I said, if you put a penny in a jar for 365 days, you would have $3.65 in 100 days. That was just a statistical spreadsheeted truth, right? And then you watch kids wandering around like, I can't seem to save $3.65. And you knew the answer. You're like, I got the information, right?
Yeah.
How would that be taboo by sharing a statistical, right, fact with kids in an institution that's supposed to teach them things?
Yeah. Because I remember one time we were talking here about you gave the three basic key things to make sure someone doesn't screw up, and it was like finish high school or something, graduate, get a job, don't have sex or don't have a baby till marriage or something along those lines. And I went home and taught this to my kids and explained the importance of it. And I even realized my kids are in a youth group in church, and they had sent information to parents and said, hey, by the way, our next meeting, we're going to discuss what the Bible says about purity and abstinence, giving you all a heads up. And I realized my son doesn't even know what sex is. So let's have a talk. And in that talk, besides what it is specifically, we talked about, so here's what to do if you don't want a baby to be made or a disease or whatever. And here are some steps to take so you don't ruin your life. Because why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we make that part of it?
There's some wisdoms that have been taught for thousands of years that make sense outside of every culture and era that there are. Yeah. And so in a setting, and I know that, you don't want direct religion being taught in schools, but if the wisdoms that happen to be in the Bible or be of religious teachings make common sense in today's culture, then you can separate and say, these things lead to X mathematically and scientifically. I'm not telling you that you have to do those things, but here's the information in front of you. If you do X, this is likely. If you do Y, this is likely. Pick, choose, up to you.
Because we hear, even as adults, I've been in situations where I heard someone facing an unwanted pregnancy and I can't believe this happened. And I'm just like, you do know how babies are made, right? you don't have to make one. And yeah, it's almost like they need sort of that understanding of not consequences, but
the responsibility of your actions.
Future looking. Yes. That this and what you're doing here can affect your entire life.
Right. Right. But the magic pill society means that, we want to let people do things and then sell them a pill on how to then rid them of the consequences of those actions. Right? You want to do X, Y, Z? I got a shot for you. Right?
Yeah.
And so we've deprived the next generation of having those connections between, the results and the actions. And that's an unhealthy state for us to be in, because although the Democrats love this, because if you can create victims in every class and every whatever just by ignorance, right? That's better, because once you feel victimized by something and you don't get to take responsibility for it. If you want to eat 20 cupcakes and you get fat, right? And I don't want to give you the shot to make you not fat. I'm going to tell you, hey, don't eat cupcakes and you'll be all right. But there's a whole other group that are going to say, what are you, a prude? Everybody eats cupcakes. You eat all the cupcakes you want.
I did it as a kid.
How do you expect kids not to eat cupcakes? And you could say, well, no, I'm not telling you that you can't eat cupcakes. I'm just connecting the cupcakes with you being overweight and disease-ridden and lethargic and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the different things that people have to break in their brain as adults. And I'm really trying not to go down the health route here, but how many times do I,
BJ's hating you.
I'm going to try not to, BJ, but like things like, oh, I need to work out more. Well, then do it. But I don't have time. We'll do it at night after work. You're just watching TV anyways, but I'm too tired. So do you want to do it or do you not want to do it? Because there's always an excuse. And then they get in that rut that then has to be broken. We could just set them up for success as kids, teach them, hey, here's what we call time management. Here's what we call prioritizing. Here's what we call fitting things in and getting into healthy routines and doing things that will set you up for success. And it's almost like we don't. And then as adults, they have to find their way into that, break the habits they've already been in for years, instead of just learning habits, I guess, along the way.
Well, just like Jerry said, that schools should see statistical phenomenon and be able to tell their students about it through the guise of education. What is it? If that's not education, what is? Memorization? Like, what is schooling if I can't tell you about things? And somebody brought up, doing your taxes and doing finance and things that actually matter to make you an adult. If we're not teaching any of that, what are we trying to craft with students and with education? That they're not a wrecking ball? Like, are we just trying to minimize our risk by making sure people aren't so stupid that they break things? Or are we trying to make excellent people who are well-rounded, have lots of data and lots of formulations where how to make things and fix things?
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of hope in education.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of factual information being imparted, which is not unnecessary. But I wonder how much ideas are being discussed, if that makes sense. Like, you have a test that this continent is located here and this historical event happened in this year, and it's just regurgitating factual information. But to the point of that is like, hey, here's what this good decision could lead to.
You know what would be cool?
What?
If we went to a school, right, and we took the three things. We said, hey, on a spreadsheet, we evaluated 1 million scenarios, and the people that were at the top 90% of success did these three things. Okay. Gave that information to the schools. And we're not going to tell you anything except for the data. And then poll all of the kids and say, knowing this, what should we do?
Yeah.
And see what the kids come up with as ways to solve that problem.
Like, I went to years and years ago, I was working for a chiropractor's office. And this woman in town had this little organization that after school she met with underprivileged kids, low income area. And she says, I like to have people come in from all different types of businesses and professions and talk to the kids and say, one day you could be this, one day you could work in this industry. But there's never and here's how. Like if you told a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a doctor. I want to be whatever. Great. What are you going to do this week to get you there? What are you going to do next year to get you there? What are you going to do in 5 years to get you there? Like, it's almost like we're good on this. You can accomplish anything. Just set your mind to it. And then a kid's like, what? Mm-hmm. But how exactly?
So my kid wants to go to MIT, and he knew this when he was 13 years old. He started saying, I want to be an engineer. I want to go to MIT. I want to be pursued by, companies that are on the bleeding edge of technology. And I said, challenge accepted. And I went and studied the acceptance for MIT and the people who entered that vein. And we figured out through the modeling of other people what they had to do. So I set up a spreadsheet of things that those people do. And we're going down that spreadsheet one by one, having a perfect score in the ACT, putting in community service so that when your resume, when you apply to these universities, you are different than anybody else. And at 15 years old, he's taking college credits way ahead of his years. He's getting a resume together of things that he will be different than other people and have a story to tell about where his brain was at and where it led him. And it's not just a cycle of, blind ambition. We're trying to emulate. If somebody runs a marathon and they do these 30 things, I write the 30 things that they do and I try to do all of them, and I give myself a long runway. I don't wait till he's 18 and say, all right, you're done with high school, go do MIT. Yeah. Because the people who get MIT don't get started at 18, they get started at 15, right?
Yeah.
And if he wants to be an MIT and I want that for him, he's going to get started with the profile of people who get in those things. And all of this stuff is knowable. All we do is evaluate the people who have done the thing we want to do and do those things. So, oh, hey, you got a great job and your family's tight and you're financially secure. What did you do? Oh, I waited until I was married to have kids. I graduated high school and I got a job, whatever. You just make the checklist down, do all of those things. Don't argue with the list of people who have done what you want to do. Just go do those things. Oh,
because the arguing, I think, is the human nature.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to have a good job. I want to be a good employee so that I can advance in a company. Okay, what's like a basic thing you can do? Let's say I show up on time every day. Because if you're late, you don't look like a good employee. They don't want to promote you. You're late all the time. I want to be on time every day. How are you going to do that? Well, I better get up in time. You realize that could require you getting up at this time. Oh, I'm not getting up that early. Well, then
you just decided that I don't want to be a marathon runner because I really like sleeping in. And when all those other people are running, I don't want to be a part of that. And when I can't run a marathon, it's going to be a different reason.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't want to follow the easy to follow checklist of how to become a marathon runner. I thought I was special and I didn't have to do those things.
Oh, yeah. You know how many times I've heard somebody would see me do something in the workplace or get a little benefit or get a little, go ahead and do that. And they're like, oh, that's nice. I'd be like, do you have any idea?
So are you
what I did before that?
So if let's just say you're a 17-year-old girl and you decide I'm going to do the purity thing and I'm not going to have sex, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm bought into the fact that a good percentage of people follow this protocol in order to find success. And I want the success, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have someone who doesn't want to make that sacrifice. They want to have a lot of sex and they want to, are you 15? You're 15. You're 15.
I didn't say anything. Sex. I didn't say anything.
Your look on your face said it all. But anyway, so if you take the one that made the sacrifice and gets all the benefit, and you have the one that was like, nah, I don't want to do the sacrifice. Now they're comparing one another and saying, oh, thank goodness I made the sacrifice. I got all the benefits. And this person's like, we should take those benefits away. I want some of those. It's not fair that I don't get those same benefits. Do we live in a society, right? We'll take 2 minutes out of our day and say, oh, we should really lay on the benefits heavy on the things that we want to happen and really let the consequences fester and be very public and market the fact that when you make bad decisions, bad things happen. So you should make less of them.
Yeah. There is a guy I wish I could remember the name of his company. I'd give him a shout out. He was a mover. When we first built our house and we were moving in, there was a couple like heavy items we needed a mover for. It's like Youngstown something. And this guy showed up, and it's just him and a teenage kid he had with him. And he explained to us, kind of mentoring him. I'm teaching him about the business, moving, things of that nature. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And I heard him during and throughout the day pointing things out to this kid. Here's why I do it this way. You do it this way, it makes more sense, blah, blah, blah. But I also heard him saying things like, you like this house, don't you? Is this a nice house? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, how do you think you get a house like this when you're older? And he even asked my husband, he's like, sir, if you don't mind, may I ask you what you do? And he's like, oh, I was in the military for 20 years. I did this, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, do you see the sacrifice it takes? Do you see the discipline? Do you see what you have to do? You got to get up on time. You got to blah, blah, blah. And then you can aspire to things like this. And I was just like, I like this guy.
Heck yeah.
You know, like this guy is like showing the kid the importance of work, doing it right, and what comes from it and what it looks like. Because how many people would have walked into someone's home or worked on someone's car or seen something somebody had and said, oh, must be nice. Oh, look at them. They got all this. They're trying to keep you down. Maybe you should just go take it. It's not fair. Maybe they should give it to people instead of how'd you get what you have? And let's do that.
And that is part of the sickness of our downfall, where when you see someone who's worse than you, if there's a benefit in helping those people, you have more people willing to extend themselves. If those people freaking hate you, right? Mm-hmm. How many billionaires are going to be willing to help a thousandaire who, has total hatred? So all the people that lather on all of that hatred for people through envy and greed, right? They create a disconnect where not only are they probably never going to accomplish those things unless they steal it, now there's no motivation to do it in the first place. Would you become so let's just say we targeted people who have more than you, right? Would you ever want to become a person that has more than they need if you were then going to become the target that you once?
It's scary. I have felt that. We're like, if I saved up my money to buy a luxury item, a purse or something of that nature, I'm almost afraid to use it around people because I'm afraid of judgment, that someone feels some kind of way that I have something. And they don't know that I worked really hard. I worked multiple jobs. I saved up for it. Maybe I got at a reasonable price, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be judged just because of the outward appearance of having something. Yeah. And that sucks.
But I'm afraid of that more than I am with AI, because we've allowed that to fester over the years, where the class warfares between the two, the more people that are in that victim class and the separation between the have and the have-nots create a whole group of people who've been convinced of a reality that is completely artificial, are going to be angry and mad, right? Mm-hmm. And if you remember the purge where all the rich people had those big metal things that went over their houses when the purge happened?
Yeah.
And all the people had nothing to lose that would just take. It's not going to be the super wealthy that are the ones that get pitchforked and torched, right? It's going to be the people that can't preserve the middle portion of it and get completely decimated by the lower end.
And then one of the worst things we can do, and we do, is cater to that.
For sure. Make it stronger.
Yeah. We had talked about how long do you think someone's going to produce if everybody else kind of reaps the benefits of what they did. And I've been places, where like all of my coworkers are leaving for the day and I'm the only one staying back closing up. And I'm like, guys, what the hell? You got it. We know you'll do it. Mm-hmm. And we're going to make the same money and nobody's going to say anything to us. Why would we work harder?
That's right.
And so what happens to that person then over time of I'm done being the only one doing anything, And
that is the best argument for socialism. The best. It's the people of merit, right? They lose in that. And then you average down that nobody, the universal basic income is one of my favorite topics because that is going to be a reality within the next decade. Is what I'm saying. You're going to have such a group of people that are not. Technology is moving so fast, and speed is increasing at such a rate that there are people that really just didn't decide anything. So they're going to be left behind because they can't even merge into something that's moving so fast. They have no other choice but to then be carried by the people who decided to move and got to prosperity because they decided to jump in while it was slower. And it's going to be a point where there's no way to merge into that deal. So you're going to split society in two.
Like, I keep thinking, when we think about the success sequence, emphasizing marriage before childbirth, all that, all I'm doing now is thinking the pushback. What's the pushback going to be? People that are like, well, don't. You're just teaching them to judge people and don't judge me and I can do what I want. And I have to look into this article and see exactly what they're doing and then watch the pushback and the people who push back. What are their lives like?
Okay, so let's just take half the United States. We'll take 150 million people. All of a sudden, they don't have the capacity, the speed, or the desire to join the prosperous side. So the prosperous side is like, everything's cool. Us, we have more than we actually need. We get to then decide of what we give to the other 150 million people so they don't absolutely destroy us. Do you realize that we have just gone back to slavery, paid slavery, where they are going to pay just enough to keep these people from not killing them, right? And that is the first road to having an entire population that can't do anything for themselves, are completely purchased by the people that don't want them to destroy them and give them just enough so they don't die.
Yeah.
Slavery, version 2.0 or 9,563.0.
But yeah, it's the being able to be forward looking. I want what I want in this moment. This is benefiting me right now. Makes sense to me.
What about when somebody you cares about decides that they don't want anything to do with this whole technology thing? Like, I'm swearing it off. I'm just doing paper. I'm not going to join in any of this. And they find someone, and again, you care about them, and you can tell them right now, don't withhold. You're either going to be in the jail cell, right, or you're going to be at the top of the wave, and there's no in between here. But they're like, I'll deal with that down the road. And you find someone you care about, now didn't do it. There's a real consequence to it. They can't buy a house or start a family or go to school because all of those things are for the people who did make the decision 5 years ago and they didn't. What do you do with them?
Feel bad for them.
Feel bad? Just let them waste away, die away, become a slave?
Try to coach them out of
it. It's too late.
it.
Things are going to move so fast that the decisions you make right now are that decision 5 years from now. And if we've got attention span within the next 30 minutes, we can't see a year from now. So we don't know that we're making a fatal decision until you've already made it.
How do you balance staying literate with computers, AI, internet, all that stuff, and not letting your attention span dwindle? Because I think this whole 7-second attention span stems from social media. Everything is quick. Reels are quick. People want stuff
Slave
really
training.
fast.
That's slave training right there.
So how do you stay up to date and up to snuff and learn how to utilize technology, but don't cripple yourself by utilizing it?
All right. So I hand you a hammer. You can do a lot of things with a hammer. You can build something, you can construct it, you can deconstruct it, you can hit yourself in the face with it. How do I convince you not to hit yourself in the face with it? Because I can tell you what you're doing is bad, but you have to believe me. You don't have to experience. I can just tell you, don't hit yourself in the hands or the face or whatever. Use it to build something. It's a tool.
Yeah.
Right? And I can either tell you the information and you care, or tell you the information and you still hit yourself in the face and the hands with it. That's it.
Unless you experience the hurt of it.
What's nice about it is that the number one question that I get asked by people in their 50s and 60s is, what path should I put my kid on in technology? They're not going to be able to learn it all. There's too many specializations. But which one should I encourage in my kid? So parents are seeing it, and grandparents who don't have an understanding, but see that the value in making a good decisions, even when you're ignorant about it, knowing that it's going to play a big role. So if you had a small business, right before computers came on, and you did everything by papers and filing cabinet, your invoicing was done by filing cabinet, your receivables, everything was done by filing cabinet. You're like, hey, all of my competition, they're using these computers where they're doing everything I'm doing, and it's 10 times as fast. Mm-hmm. So you have a choice. Either you figure out the important parts that make you not die because you decided to stay on paper, or you decide to stay on paper and die. And those are two choices. You don't have the option of not joining it, because it's really, if there were no competition, then you can stay right where you're at. But as long as everybody else is doing a thing, giving themselves a tool that's making them better, and you're using a tool for make you worse, or not using the tool at all, you're choosing dying, right?
Yeah.
And there's a consequence 5 years from now, because now you get to 5 years, you're way behind, don't have an understanding, don't have the foundation to even merge into that traffic to begin with, right? What do? I'm going to say, get in your time machine, go back 5 years, learn the tools, learn how to use them appropriately, and use them as a tool instead of a vice. That's all I can say.
I saw an interview recently where this fitness nutritionist type person was talking about mental health as well, and used the term empty calories, talking about your consumption online. And it was like, just like you have empty calories that you can put in your body, things that you are taking in that have no nutritional value and no benefit to you whatsoever, they just make you worse off. You can consume empty calories in technology. And that had me thinking a lot. Like, when you're using technology and you're online or you're using the computer, what is a benefit and what is empty calories I better cut off? It's hard to do, just like in real life.
Or even with like food. We all know the data. This is a behavioral problem, not a data problem. We already know. If you start smoking, this is the repercussions. If you overeat, these are the repercussions. If you're lethargic and apathetic, these are the repercussions. So it's not data. We all know this stuff. Now, I say that social media is doing slave training right now is because the profile, I put a lot of that person who is training themselves to have the short spurts of gratification, and totally having a blind spot for things that you have to wait a little bit to be gratified, with people who are addicted and rehabbing from drugs. Okay. The analogy I use when I'm talking in front of them is there's two types of people. And if you're standing in line and you're afraid and your world is terrible, you are looking about 6 inches in front of you, because all of the danger is 6 inches in front of you. So you're just trying to get through today. You're trying to get your rent paid. You're trying to get your fix right now. Everything is in the short time in front of you. So you can't look up down the horizon at all, because everything's scary and everything that benefits you within 6 inches. You have no reason to look up from 6 inches. But when you remove all of your peril and you're forced into not having anything within the 6 inches, you start lifting your head and looking further on down the road. So what's the practice of being able to look down the horizon? You have to remove the instant gratification things completely, so you get bored enough to look at the next day, the next week, the next year things, or else you're never going to make it to those things. So if I wanted short-sighted people and I wanted to craft them, I'd get them super addicted to the 30-second attention span, rather than someone who's like, I'm going to give up today. I'm not going to have sex today. I'm going to have sex 5 years from now. It's going to be great. I know it's great. And I'm going to enjoy that 5 years from now. Or the Veruca Salt, I want it now, right? And everything you want it now. You're not willing to wait for it. You're not going to compromise. It's happening now. Okay, you're going to be a slave. And I'm not going to feel bad, because I'm going to tell you that data point. If everything you want, you get right now, and you're uncompromising, you're training yourself to be a slave in the future. Yeah,
it's sort of that YOLO, you can't take it with you.
All terrible.
Versus Gary V, the entrepreneur. He's probably one of the only people I've heard that really drives home the point, life is longer than you think. We always say life's so short. Life's so short. Make yourself happy. Do what you want. Eat the cake. Life's short. To a point, it can feel that way. But he's like, you got a lot of life. And it's going to suck real bad if you don't start planning like you do, you know? And it's like, that's it. That's
but again, we teach the crush philosophy. If you know that 50% of the people are doing just chasing vices and are going to be completely decommissioned in intelligence and experience and willingness and ambition, then the other 50% needs to crush them and totally dominate them. If they are willingly doing that thing, you might as well be an opportunist and take advantage of that apathy in our culture. And why wouldn't you? Because that is being dominated in that kind of scenario is the perfect dissuasion from making that choice. If life is really tough and everybody is bullying you over your bad choices and you feel terrible in it, that might be the proper motivation to stop doing those things and join the people who aren't. I want to be the crusher. I want to be the bully rather than the person that's being bullied or being crushed. But that's what nature teaches us.
It's funny, even in the political climate, though, you see that mentality trying to be squandered. Like, I saw somebody say the other day, I'll just say it was somebody on the left. I think it might have been AOC or somebody was talking about, we're creating all this fragile masculinity and all these men that are trying to be all manly and stuff like that because they feel threatened and blah, blah, blah. And then the other side's like, no, that's a man. Like, that's what they're supposed to be. It's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But we're sort of in this role now of, instead of making somebody able to be the strong, resilient crusher, no, we're going to frown upon that to sort of keep you, like you said, in that slave mentality. Is that's not something you want to be. We're going to just kind of quell you a bit. And then we can control
my 15-year-old asked me the other day?
What?
Yesterday, actually. He asked me, Dad, are they trying to depopulate the earth? Are they trying to depopulate the earth? So he's watching these things happen, right? That curb healthy families, curb having productive, 2+ babies per family, unhealth, poisons and toxins everywhere. And then, I referenced like what happened in China when they had an overpopulation problem. They put mandates on, they would abort girl babies and they wanted male babies. They limited the amount of kids that they can have just because resources are being strained by the sheer number of people. And so I had to think a little bit, like, my kid is asking for a very future thing. Like, am I at risk here that if they want to depopulate the earth and they want less people because they think the earth is more valuable than the human beings that inhabit it, and they don't take value in the number of people that are there, am I going to be a casualty of someone else's really deranged philosophy that humans aren't awesome?
That's not a far stretch to think the priorities land with the earth, not the humans. Mm-hmm. And what do we have to do?
Yeah, would you expense out a bunch of people for the sake of saving a rainforest? There's people that live amongst us that would pick the rainforest over Bob every time. And they'd have lots of reasons why Bob is a parasite and the trees are pure.
Don't let people continue to have growth.
Innovation.
Get everyone sort of the same.
Yeah.
And if they can't get on that mindset, they can die off.
If you emasculate men, right, then the testosterone that drives men to procreate and be men, well, then you limit the amount of babies they have. If you make fun of and mock women who want traditional families, you limit the amount of offspring that we have. So you see all of these themes where we want to reduce the amount of people who feel like men and women getting together and having more babies. That seems like it's a theme.
You devalue life in general.
100%. So he had a lot of data points that say that's exactly what they have prescribed, which is depopulating the planet. That's just, I don't know. All right, we got to get out of here. Tomorrow, MLO Bros. Next week, back to me and Kelin. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your support.